welcome back to the LEC, and I am joined by Mikyx after XL defeats Astralis on the 6th week of LEC. Congratulations on the victory, and it's nice to see you in person.
Thank you, likewise.
Likewise. How are you feeling about the victory and finally getting to go on 1-1 after perhaps an unfortunate defeat against Misfits yesterday?
It's quite a relief, especially because Astralis beat Rogue and Fnatic, so it was like a bit scary to go up against them. You never know how insane they're going to be on the day. Yeah. But yeah, it was quite a long game. It was pretty back and forth, but I felt like we were pretty ahead. Well, especially top side. Our Jinx was a little bit behind, but we managed to pull it off, so I'm kind of relieved there.
Yeah, it did look like your bot lane was being a bit targeted throughout, especially in the early game. But with your Thresh performance, you did have one key player of the game. What can you... Okay, how do you feel about this? Let's go with that question. How do you feel about this?
I feel like I'm robbing my teammates of MVPs just because I get in the vote. It's kind of crazy because I didn't think I played very good. I think my top side was completely smurfing this game. But yeah, I mean, I appreciate it, guys.
I guess perhaps it's the narrative, but overall, many people have been paying their attention to the development that XL has been seeing ever since you have joined the team. I recently had a chat with Makun and several other people about this development, but from your perspective, how has it been going for you? Can you also notice the growth that XL has been seeing that people have been commenting on?
I mean, personally, I didn't see us getting better just because I mean, I feel like all of my teammates are just good, so I'm not sure if I changed much when I came in. I feel like I'm playing okay, but yeah, I don't think I'm the big factor on why we're doing well. I just think my team is good, so that's why we're doing well. Yeah.
You know how LEC has been very wild recently. A lot of the lower teams taking the top tier teams down. If you had to tier the current XL in the standings, in your opinion, where would you place it?
I think I would put us top 4, so maybe 4th place, maybe 3rd place right now. But I mean, looking at it, I think every team is definitely beatable. So yeah, I think by the end of the split, we could even aim for 1st. I think right now we're around 3rd, 4th place, but yeah.
Oh, exciting, because I did borrow this from Tryndamere. I'm just going to show it to the camera over here. This is definitely not a Death Note and a totally normal notebook. And I did go through it and I saw a familiar name like Wonder and Perks and Krebs, and maybe they have something in common. I'm not sure, but also when I try to connect the dots together, I do realize that you'll be going against G2 in a week or two. So how do you feel about that matchup? I have to ask you.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably one of the matches I'm looking forward to the most, just because I play my previous organization and Caps and Jankos. I mean, it's honestly really fun to play past teammates. Even today I played Promiscue, I played Kobe, I played with them in the past. So I don't know, it's always really fun. And I guess the G2 2019 lineup is a bit more special, so I feel really hyped whenever I get to play against them. So then if I win, I can trash talk them. And so far I have a pretty good track record, so yeah, I think G2 is going down next year.
Okay, well, I'll keep a close eye on this notebook and see just how much of it does come through. Thank you so much for the interview. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And I'll send it over to the host for a pre-match of BDS versus SK.
Thank you very much, Ashley. Always great to hear from Mickey. Now, welcome back to the Analyst Desk, where I'm once again joined by Tryndamere and Rusty Breaker Pliason, who removes any obstacle that blocks his pursuit for knowledge. Given that SK versus BDS is our next match, it's important to highlight that both teams are desperately looking for a win as we get closer and closer to playoffs. So, Mr. Pliason, what knowledge can you partake for us when it comes to this matchup, in particular looking at SK?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to SK, I feel like this is a team that right now is in the thick of things, trying to break in. 2 games down behind that 6th place spot, but I think the teams sort of 5 through 8 right now, maybe BDS with a win here, are all going to be competing for those final playoff spots. And SK, I just want to say that their game against G2, I was so happy to see Gilius back on, early aggressive jungler, ganking, finding kills has always been what has made him look the strongest. And then on top of that, I felt like once they sort of got a handle on the game, they really slowed down the tempo of the match. They were waiting, sort of stacking up those Drakes, controlling mid, controlling the rivers, and really waiting until they could play towards that win condition. Their objective play was good up until they flipped the Baron, so it's not all sunshine and rainbows, but I did like how they were playing up until the 50-50.
And I think actually a large component of that, because that's a similar read to what I have too, is actually Jenax being able to play the Hullbreaker champions. I know they were talking about XL with Finn. Maybe they want more volatile top matchups. I actually think Jenax has been been really fitting into that. I think the whole team has been revolving around that too.
And I think one of the things we wanted to highlight was looking at the comparison of their stats. Something that we heard from Treatz yesterday was that when they actually got some control over the early game, you could see how competitive they were. And when you look at the difference, they were able to get first towers, they were able to get a little bit of a goal lead in the early game, like they actually were able to secure themselves a Herald. When SK seemed to have found some sort of footing in the early game, that was where we get to see the real power of SK. So do you think that they've now found a formula for success?
I think they have. It's hard to say, though, because it's only a couple of games on the trot, right?
Sure.
It's important for this team. What they've shown so far has given them an actual platform to allow their carries to play the game. I'm looking particularly at Jezu, who was talking about that in the pre-show, actually, saying, actually, it's just great to see Jezu have an actual game and not just get shut out.
It's definitely true. Now, BDS will be on the other side of the rift, and something that we've seen consistently from BDS is actually an incredibly good early game. However, it's the mid game where we have often criticized them. And what do you think their issues are when it comes to this mid game?
I think one of the big problems for them is their setup around objective fights. You know, it felt like in some of the games they've played recently, they're very slow to actually get into the river, or they'll play towards topside river when dragon spawning and then really late enter into the river. And I feel like they're really putting themselves at a disadvantage when it comes to the setup for the fights. They're always playing from a lack of knowledge, stepping into the fog of war, and that puts them in some compromising positions regardless of how good their early game can be.
Okay, but I am going to offer them a little olive branch, because I think it was Grabs in one of the interviews talking about how they were struggling around playing around stacking waves in the early game. They've done a lot better at that. We've seen that even in some of their losses, that they've been able to stack waves, get dives, get farmed for solo laners who would normally be a bit more in danger at that point. There are marked improvements. It's just not enough to get them the damn wins.
Exactly that, and I think one of the things we wanted to highlight was you'll notice their goal difference. At the beginning it looks pretty good, and then as the game goes on, it progressively gets worse and worse, and just kind of highlights the things that we've been talking about a lot. When we think about these two teams, the biggest factor is that both of them are neck and neck in the standings. Both of them still want that opportunity at qualifying for playoffs, and both of them stand in each other's way. So I'm going to start by going to NUCLEARINT,
okay,
and I'm going to ask you, who do you think is favored coming into this matchup, and who do you think is likely going to take the win?
I think it is SK.
Okay.
And what I'm going to base this off of is, it's SK, and I think it's because the top lane with the Hull Breaker matchup really affects them, and I think Adam prefers a more volatile lane. I don't think he's going to get that right now.
Ender?
I think it's SK again. I think mid-game issues for BDS are too much.
Okay, well, one of SK's shining lights this season has been their rookie mid laner Sertuss with an outstanding Orianna Shockwave performance. We asked him about what it's like coming into the LEC as a newcomer.
I started playing League, I think during Season 3, Season 4, something like that. I was just playing the game for fun, always like after school. The first time I reached high elo was Season 5. I was Master. The first year I reached Challenger, that was Season 6.
Okay, how old were you Season 6?
Season 6 I was 14 years old. Yeah, when I hit Challenger for the first time, I was Zed LeBlanc, one trick. But then, like, when I started to try to become a professional player, I knew, like, you need to have a bigger champ pool. That's why I also started to play, like, mages, Syndra, Zoe, Orianna, that kind of stuff. My favorite champions overall is LeBlanc. And then I also really like to play Zoe and Zed as well. I mean, in LEC, also like the years before, I was always looking forward to match caps, and also especially after last year, Humanoid. Internationally, probably FLICKR. You know, FLICKR is also the reason why I started to play LeBlanc. I feel really excited about facing new challenge. I like played in 2 academy teams before. Finally, I can show myself in the top league, you know, in LEC. I'm really excited to do that.
Great to hear from Sertuss as we get ready for SK Gaming versus Team BDS. As the analyst has said, it's very much a battle for a possibility of making it into playoffs. It's a difficult road for both these teams, but a win today would start things off pretty well for them.
Am I allowed to drink Red Bull on stream?
No. See, what I know you wanted to. Of course you can. Go on, take a sip, take a sip.
Well, you can't tell me no!
I'm not your boss.
Yes, well, no, okay, I guess you aren't, but
I mean, if you want me to be your boss, I can, but that's not a road we should go down.
Okay, fair enough, we won't. Let's go down the road of BDS
You didn't
versus
even take
SK
a sip.
then. I got scared, you
Take your
intimidated
sip.
me. Okay.
Take your sip. Delicious. How's it taste?
Scary.
Yeah, of course
Intimidating.
it does. As is the champion select music. Let's get on into it. SK versus BDS for the second game of the day. Let's get on into it then. 12.3 draft once again. Blue side SK, Team BDS on the red. And so far today we've seen Jinx prio, we've seen Ryze prio. No real surprises there. Kind of the stock and standard from the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see the angle SK Gaming is going to take in terms of their prioritization. I couldn't deal with that word, whatever. Moving on, I think they had a very good read on what they wanted to do yesterday when they were finally involving Gilius in some of their bot side plays. They had been struggling in finding a catalyst, someone to a spear of attack in terms of compositions. I think when we see SK Gaming with Jezu on a Jinx, with Gilius coming down with a facilitating champion, and them able to move that bot side around the map, helps them way more than when they're just scattered across.
Yeah, it's all about SK being able to get the early ganks off with Gilius and Treatz teaming up. As you say, BDS going to remove the Zeri and the Thresh. SK have used their bans on Diana, Jace, and Ryze so far. And BDS have often looked towards banning Caitlyn as well, but not quite as strong as she has been in previous patches. Instead, Twisted Fate will be removed. Now with Jinx on the cards, expectation is that it's going to be a Jinx first pick, but currently it's a Camille hover.
I think he's just hovering here. I think, as you said yourself, expectations. They could also go for a jungler here. We have seen them try and prioritize something for Gilius as well, but with the huge jungle pool still available, I think going for Powder here would be the best line of attack, specifically when you also have the Thresh ban, because yes, on BDS side, they can try and go for the counter pick with the or not counter pick, but the counter match shot with the Aphelios. But you can also try and go for the Jhin instead, which is something we saw xMatty do not too long ago either, where you want to play for the top side instead. But they do gain themselves the Enchanter, and this was what I was talking about in a previous game as well. Quite often, when Thresh is off the table in the ERL level, you get the Lulu for yourself, you get the Aphelios, and you try and outduel them with the extra Enchanter value you have down in that bot side.
Yeah, Polymorph, one of the strongest abilities when it comes to pure 2v2s. You just removed someone from the fight for a few seconds. Hecarim, Leona, though, look to be the locks here for SK. I like the aggression into a Lulu. There's always the option of, do we just pick an enchanter ourselves and try and scale alongside it?
And this is very much looking like the sort of composition they ran into the side of Mad Lions. Granted, in that game, they were very slow at getting the ball rolling, and it was only really in the mid-game they finally found their footing. So SK Gaming this time around, with the initiation tools you get outside of the Leona and you get outside of the Hecarim, definitely needs to be on point. And as we just talked about, Medic, the third pick did come through with the Aphelios, where you kind of want to try and outvalue in terms of these extended trading with the shielding, with the polymorph, and the extra movement speed you can also gain to an immobile champion like Aphelios.
BDS now deciding that they want to take Akali off the cards. I do really think that this indicates that Gwen might be going jungle instead of top lane. Akali, not a good matchup into the Gwen on the top side of the map, and I saw Cinkrof tweet earlier, it's either Rek'Sai or Gwen today. So if he's true to his word and his tweets, that Gwen is going to his hands.
Not only that, but last time they ran the Hecarim, they did also have the Akali coming up with it. And honestly, I think Sertuss has been performing on champions where he gets agency for himself. I think when he's on a just control mate matchup where he's getting outlaned, it's not a good sight. But when we saw him back when Corki was super broken, when we saw him on the Akali, where he's able to create plays where he's catching an opponent off guard, it's actually looking really good from the side of SK. So I like the fact that they're removing some of these tools that would allow a player like Sertuss, who can struggle a little bit in the early game, but can find a footing in the mid game.
You see SK on the same wavelength as us as the Aurelia and the Camille band away here. They think that Gwen not going to the top lane. LeBlanc pick for BDS. Now SK wouldn't be surprised if they decide an Orianna works well here with the Leona and the Hecarim as engage opportunities. You have a good ball delivery system. Of course, not the best matchup into the LeBlanc.
Galio could come through here as well.
Yep.
You already have to dive in with the Leona and with the Hecarim, so wouldn't be too much of a blunder if we were to see a champion like that picked off for Sertuss either. But I do like the fact that they banned the Vex and then they fourth picked the LeBlanc for themselves, and that wouldn't have been the best matchup either. So it was quite telling actually from TBDS what they were looking for. Jenax gets his Graves. We'd seen him on this champion loads hundreds of times, as the analyst desk was talking about as well. He loved these Hullbreaker meta champions, and he does very well with very little resources. He's one of the better laners. Actually, he's the best laner on SK Gaming's roster. So, individual, weak side, playstyle with the Graves, something that surely fits him.
Final lock will be Corki here. As you say, good engage already for SK. They just needed a little bit more damage. Corki provides that. Was nerfed on 12.3. They removed some of his power when it comes to package timings. It means you can't use it at every single dragon. And BDS here looking for only the second ever Tryndamere in LEC history. Last time didn't work out too well, but this time we'll see if Adam can pilot it.
Yeah, it has been known as a counter matchup into the Graves, at least in the eastern regions. And what you quite often will see the Tryndamere do is that he will run Ghost, try to run the Graves down a lane and just get the kill. Now, this often prompts the Graves player to, instead of taking TP, taking Ghost or exhaust himself so he can outrun or out-duel until he can escape with the Tryndamere. So it's going to be very interesting to have a look at that top side of the map, because on the side of BDS, you can keep xMatty and Limit as low resources with the Enchanter, try and play for them in the mid game, while you play for Adam on the top side in the early game. And from SK, it looks to be a different story. You have the tools of Engage, down with Treatz on the Leona, and you have Gilius with the follow-up on the Hecarim. If you can get Jezu ahead once again, it's looking like a good matchup into the short range of the side of XL.
Well, let's get on into the action. SK versus Team BDS for a possible position in playoffs. Let's get right on into it. Tryndamere, very much an Adam-style champion, made his name on things like the Olaf and the Darius and Carmine Core originally, and then of course joined Fnatic last summer. Tryndamere very strong in that 1v1, but as you say, it's ghost into ghost in the top lane, meaning that Jenax will be trying just to kite back that warrior up towards the top side. And
that was actually an interesting stylistic in the beginning from Adam as well, because when he initially first joined Fnatic, he suddenly became the weak side player, which was nothing short of the role he had, or that was nothing like his role he had in K-Corp. Like, he was always facilitated by Cinkrof. He was always played for and got the resources. So it's a bit weird to me to see the role he fit on Fnatic that time around. This time around, he kind of finally came back into his own kind of shoes again, where he is the one facilitated. But it hasn't always translated well, and quite often when Adam gets a lead, he kind of struggles to take a side lane lead into a lead with the team. Like, he'll forfeit wave on sides and just join the team when he really doesn't need to. We saw it yesterday as well on the Hullbreaker Jace, where it just really didn't work out for him. So Adam now, once again, with a lot of responsibility on the Tryndamere in this game.
Running the Doran shield as well, knowing that he's going to be harassed in the lane. Of course, gives you health every 5 seconds, but also restores some health over 8 seconds if you take damage from a champion. With Tryndamere playing around his health pool so often, it is important for Adam to be able to sustain through this lane. Jenax has gone longsword 3 pots, gets himself towards that first item a little quicker, and we are seeing lots of AD carries, bot laners, marksmen go for longsword instead of Doran's blade these days.
Yes, and while the Tryndamere pick is considered a sort of counter into the Graves, you don't get priority on the first 3 waves. Like, you are still melee into range matchup. It's more when you start hitting level 6, you get a few items, boots rush, sometimes something we see from the Tryndamere as well, that you start trying to run the Graves down when he's pushed too far forward in the top lane, which of course is a very long lane. But here in the beginning, Jenax doing a great job of taking control of the top side. He can move into the enemy jungle, get some vision for himself if that's what he wants to, try and scout some intel on where Cinkrof started. It looks like he's just going to be potentially faking a ward because he doesn't actually have a trinket.
And both the junglers as well, starting on the bottom side of the map, working their way up towards top lane, knowing that this is likely to be explosive, if not only because of the matchup, also because of just the playstyle of Adam. He likes to try and get early summoners out, try and burn that flash, chase down his enemy Leona. And expectations are he will continue to try and have that dominance in lane here. It doesn't always pay off for him, of course, as you say. Sometimes he gets the lead and doesn't translate it. Sometimes his early aggression bites him a little bit in the laning phase, but here he's in an okay position through these first couple of waves.
Yeah, so what I assume we're going to be seeing here is Cinkrof, he's going to be clearing his Crocs. I wonder if he's going to be recalling behind Adam just to make sure he can push this wave in for free, but with Gilius still taking care of the Grom, this should be easy for Adam. He should be able to push in the wave in response to the early push that Jenax had, and then just go for a reset or just back off now that his jungler is no longer around him.
Looks like he's just shove it in that wave and back away. We talk a lot about the stakes in this game, the importance of it for both these teams, and of course with SK sitting at 4 and 8 and BDS sitting at 3 and 9, they are near the bottom of the table, but everyone is kind of within reaching range. You know, BDS would need to win probably at least 5 of their next 6 games. SK would need to do around the same to make it into playoffs, but you really need to be beating teams around you in the standings if you are going to have a chance of making it to that final 6.
Yeah, we might have to wait for it a little bit, at least for the action in this game, because right now there's not too much facilitation on the side of BDS. The only CC you really have to set up any plays is the chain from NUCLEARINT in the mid lane. And for Gilius side, yes, you can look for plays now.
Goes, flash, Zenith blade, flash away by Limit, but there's no escape for the Lulu. And this is what you can do. You pick engage into the Enchanter. Limit tries to survive, but Jezu will secure that kill. Meanwhile, in the top lane, Ghost pop on either side. Smoke screen stops Adam getting a couple of auto attacks in. Could look for the flash. Chase decides against it. Gets the flash and the ghost out of Jenax.
Yeah, good RNGs on the crits there from Adam as well. Really forcing the forward flash out from the side of Jenax. But once again, I wanted to see this from Gilius. We've been asking for this for the longest time. The fact that you actually gank in the early game. The fact that you're actually trying to look for plays. And this time around, just coming from the lane, flashing forward on a squishy member like the Lulu, it's just brilliant, because even with Limit flashing it out, the Zenith blade has already connected to him, which means that Treatz is just going to be following. Gilius ready for the play, and this time around, it's actually Jezu who picks up the first blood, unlike yesterday where Treatz accidentally yoinked it.
But once again, SK playing really well through their bottom lane. As you say, Guldborg, Gilius very active early on here, and we saw yesterday actually SK having a much stronger early game than they had done in previous weeks. In weeks 1 to 5, they were about 2,000 gold behind at the 15-minute mark. Yesterday, they weren't massively, 14-minute mark. Yesterday, they weren't massively ahead, but they were able to get tower advantages. They were able to get the first herald as well.
Yes, but when you're used to seeing a team being in a deficit of 2k,
yeah, it's a 2k gold swing, right? You take that.
Suddenly just being up 100 is like mind-blowing to you after all these weeks. And it's finally the fact that SK is starting to look like a team. For the longest time, I really didn't think they'd actually have it in them, because it just looked like whenever they're creating plays on the map, they weren't on the same page. They did it as an individual. They were never really a team up between Treatz and Gilius. But yesterday, we started to see the lights of that. We started to see the lights of SK not being afraid to commit to plays in the early game. And, you know, Treatz was even saying on the interview yesterday, I mean, if they can just get the early game rolling, well, maybe they should have a better shot at winning these games.
Right now, they've definitely managed to do that. Treatz able to force xMatty back here. Does still have the cleanse. Doesn't use it. Chomper's coming down. He's going to cleanse away from that instantaneously. Wise to wait there on the cleanse. Made sure that he could get out of the Chomper, because we saw it yesterday. If you place the Chompers behind that initial stun, even if you cleanse the initial stun, you come back through that stun. But here is the Zenith blade, and xMatty's burnt his spells. The shield coming out, though. Jezu flashes away from the tower range. Pushes back in, Treatz. He will still have the Shield of Daybreak stun back up. He walks forward, there's the stun. Once again, the shield. Just in time. xMatty able to survive. Jezu rooted outside of the tower range. Meanwhile, we see NUCLEARINT and Sertuss fighting in the mid lane. Both of them trying to work their way down here, but both of them stopped in their tracks by their opposite man.
Yeah, looking a little bit like a solo queue dive down there towards the bot side of the map, but good layering of the defensive spells from the side of BDS. They got the cleanse, they had limit with the polymorph and the correct target, so Jesse couldn't really hammer down the rockets rather, when Treatz finally got the CC, and they stay alive. They're able to push out the wave for themselves. They can get a slow push bouncing into them, and they get a favorable reset despite having a rough time in the matchup in the bot lane. Matty is actually ahead with 5 CS.
There's a small window there where Cinkrof could have
You take those
gone
after having died already.
Oh yeah, you take it, 100%. Out of the lane, 5 CS ahead. You are able to survive your flash, and your cleanse will be back off cooldown before Jezu has summoners of his own as well because of that dive. So it's an okay position. NUCLEARINT here just diving in to try and clear out that wave, and across the board, relatively even when it comes to laning states. Only really Adam gaining a sizable advantage for himself in that top lane.
So let's talk a little bit about this 8-minute mark, because in previous patches, this would be where Corki could finally pick up the package. They could start either contesting the first Drake for themselves, pretty much just get it guaranteed for free because the enemy team had to respect the package. Now you can no longer really get that early priority, but you can still get it at the 10-minute mark. Now, the thing is, this package only spawns every once 5th minute instead of the 4th minute used to be in the past, but with the correct layering, you can still get it at the correct setup before a Drake. And now with SK moving Treatz up first here, while xMatty and Limit is still down towards the bot side of the map, they should be able to pick up the Rift Herald for themselves.
And the thing with Jezu is he's just going to back away. Cinkrof steps in here, but not sure he really wants to be in here right now. Adam coming in from the side, Rift Herald picked up by SK, they will secure that. Both the supports moved up to the mid lane, and Jezu and xMatty are just left to their own devices down towards the bottom side. Moonlight Vigil available for xMatty, does have a level advantage, and Flash about to come back off cooldown. Could have looked for something. There's the Moonlight Vigil, but Jezu levels up just at the right time, and xMatty will not want to take any more of this fight until his team arrives. NUCLEARINT and Limit here for the dive. Jezu nowhere to go, no summoners. Chompers go down. They will get the root, but xMatty was tanking the tower, and BDS get their first kill of the game.
Yeah, so I wonder, what can they get on the other side of the map? Because SK, after they got the Rift Herald, they didn't really look to put themselves in a position where they could put it down and start threatening a tower or some plates. They actually just let Jezu remain as a weak saver. Now, Jezu, once again, did not give up the wave. It's something we talk about quite often. When a team commits to the top side of the map with their support and leave their AD carry by themselves, quite often, the AD carry just have to forfeit that one wave and admit that, okay, I have to give over these plates. If they don't, well, they lose the wave anyway when they die.
You're talking about a bit yesterday, SK can sometimes make sort of small mistakes in the laning phase that really cost them. Here they had a good start, you know, they got that kill, they were able to get ahead, but then just a little bit of greed from Jezu to stay around for that wave cost him dearly, and because of that, now BDS have the timer to come and get this dragon. They do it just before the package comes up, meaning that Corki wasn't a threat. Package will now be available. It actually looks like Sertuss is going to stay around and pick this one up off its initial cooldown. We would probably just use that maybe to make a play in the bottom lane, maybe just to get around the map a little bit faster.
That's the thing with this Rift Herald as well right now, because currently it's a stock. You don't know if it's going to go to the moon or if it's just going to fall through. It's just in his inventory, and it's going to depend on the way that Gilius use it, how much that investment of the early Rift Herald is actually going to benefit SK.
For the moment, BDS coming out ever so slightly on top of the initial series of plays. Cinkrof is making a beeline for the bottom lane, and so is Gilius. Looks like we're going to see both these junglers clash. It could just be Cinkrof shadowing, it could just be Gilius doing the same, but Gilius having the Rift Herald kind of implies it's going to happen. You can see Sertuss now using that package, using that extra movement speed to come across. Stops on a control ward, very important to clear out that vision, but it does delay his movement. Solar Flare, xMatty cleanses it. Sertuss now can get the package behind. Rift Herald's going to tank up this tower, but it needs to get the charge in. Sertuss a little bit deep. Polymorph, package, wild growth. Package will get him out. The tower falls to about half of his HP as Rift Herald charges in, and not as much as SK would have wanted out of that play.
Definitely not. 160 to Jezu, 160 to Gilius. Really doesn't mean too much in the grand scheme of things here in NUCLEARINT, and he's going to be able to respond with a plate for himself. In the mid lane, he should just be able to back off afterwards. He is a slippery champion on the LeBlanc. From the side of SK, they can still try and commit to a few plays here because they have the first move from the bottom lane, but it looks like they're just going to be trying and secure the scuttle here, get some vision around the river perimeter. And outside of that, looks like we're just going to be getting some resets coming through.
It's playing around wave states is something we've seen BDS really improve over the last few weeks. Their ability to read what the enemy team is trying to do on the map. I know Grabs has talked about it quite a lot. It's definitely something they have leveled up coming into week 6. It's something they definitely needed to, because it was a very sore point for them in the past.
Exactly. They were talking about improving their fundamentals, and I think that was something we saw a lot yesterday, because they were moving around the priority down towards the bot side every time they had it, to either set up a dive or to move it around the top side. They got the heralds in the early game, and they were just having really good moves around Vitality. The problem for BDS is always their mid game. Like, they have solid early games, but something just goes wrong for them, and we were talking about it yesterday. It kind of comes down to two things. Either you just straight up mess up the macro when you're ahead, and you don't set yourself up success in terms of how you're shoving in side lane waves and then moving to commit to a play on the map. And the other one is that individuals just get caught. Sometimes the wrong person is just in the wrong spot.
For the moment, BDS haven't really been caught out too much after that initial play from Gilius, and we haven't actually seen that horse rampaging through the map too much either. Does have the Onslaught of Shadows, level 8 turbo chem tank complete as well. BDS can constantly getting vision control down towards this bottom side, or at least getting wards in to stop that Hecarim from being able to get on into this lane. And the only real option for Gilius is through the lane. And Treatz does have Sweeper, so maybe he'll look to clear out this ward in the second bush.
I really want to compliment Cinkrof, because every time that the SK bot lane is setting up a potential play on the side of BDS, Cinkrof is just in the back from them. He only missed out on the first blood, but outside of that, he's always been here. SK, they're still looking though.
Solar Flare flashed away from Maddie, uses the flash as well. Fear only going to land onto Cinkrof. The chase is there, but look at the guns from Aphelios. Forces Gilius away. Super Mega Death Rocket tanked up as well. BDS able to answer this gank. Meanwhile, in the top lane, Adam very happily just wailing away on that tower. 2 plays to him. The chase is on up there as Jenax looks for it, but Undying Range available for the Tryndamere. Even if you try to kill him, he will just survive. Adam forced away. Of course, no TP on him means that he will want to stay around and try and catch this wave. And you can see NUCLEARINT actually maybe working his way up towards that top lane, instead decides just to back out of vision.
But that's the big problem for Adam right now, because currently, take a look at the inventory. Jenax, he's already finished the Hullbreaker. Adam is sitting at Berserker Greaves and a Longsword. He desperately needs a reset to come through if he wants to match this Graves in lane. And remember, that's kind of what the Tryndamere is picked for as well. It's this stage in the game where on the first items, you want to start out-brawling the Graves. You want to start taking control. And now, Kraken Slayer in hand. It's going to be curious to see if he can fulfill that.
I know there's a lot of debate around Tryndamere items, and I'm not gonna proclaim myself an expert. I don't think either of us should. If you want to know more about that, I'm sure Nemesis is preparing a tweet right now as to whether or not Adam understands how to play Tryndamere. But I will say, crit tends to be quite important on this champion. Kraken Slayer does give you 20% crit, gives you that extra damage on every third attack, as well as Maddie looks for a play down towards the bottom side. Flame Chomp is a little bit short, but the Gale Force away will keep him safe. And I wonder if Adam will be looking for, you know, an early Infinity Edge as well, just to give that Tryndamere a little bit more oomph behind those blows of his sword.
Yeah, it's going to take some time before we really see that, but now neutral objectives have spawned on the map here. Once again, SK, the first on the Herald objective. Hectech Drake is currently up and available as well. But from the side of BDS, they're taking care of the turrets instead. They're getting some objective goals here, and they can always just pivot up towards the Drake after Matty is done with this turret.
Looks like Gilius might just put the Rift Tower down here to crack open this tower. Yep, he's going to use it just to make sure this mid tower does fall. Gives Corki a little bit more freedom on the map as well. First tower did go over to BDS. That gold lead of about 1,000 will be culled in a second dragon of the game to them as well, though. And only 600 gold between these two teams. Gilius looking for a second charge if they can find it, but NUCLEARINT jumps past, jumps back, trying to proc the eye. NUCLEARINT, there we go. He got it in the end. Rift Herald was not giving him the easiest opportunity to poke that eye.
But it does become quite scary from the side of SK, because the thing that's kind of been a pattern with these two teams is the fact that they really struggle to close out games when they finally get a lead. We saw how long it took from SK yesterday. We saw BDS rather through against Vitality. So the fact that you're the team who gets to stack up the Drakes in the early game kind of creates an easier win condition for you, where it just becomes easier for you to finally find that last nail in the coffin once you get to the late game, because SK is going to be forced to go towards you. Now, I will say, having this Cloud Drake, it's not the best. It could probably be better from the side of BDS, but you're not complaining either. It's still very much annoying to play against, specifically on champions like the Tryndamere, like the Gwen. They get so much movement speed when they proc their ultimates then.
For the moment, both these teams willing just to let things settle a little bit. No neutral objective on the map. Adam stepping forward. Jenax able to dodge away with a quick draw. And it's a bit of a focus in the mid lane by BDS, just trying to answer any possible play that may have come out of SK. And while we have what seems to be a moment here, I want to play a little game with you, Guldborg. I'm going to call it Spot the Wins. So both these teams currently sitting just outside of playoff contention, as actually we don't need to spot any wins because Sertuss is getting dived on. Gilius coming in as well. Cinkrof will be able to dash away, but the Onslaught of Shadows comes back. Cinkrof survives! Just needed one more auto to take him out. And you can still spot the wins if you want. Where are SK going to get 5 wins out of this? Super Mega Death Rocket.
5-1 with the rocket. It's good placement, but Cinkrof, he's ready for it. So I thought it was that an Astralis I saw in there?
Let me just, I'll bring it back up in a second. So SK have BDS, Vitality, Astralis, Rogue, XL, and Misfits to play. And usually the threshold is 9 and 9 to guarantee a spot in playoffs.
Oh, we're going to have... Oh, I'm going to hold that thought because Matty, he does have that cleanse, but maybe forced to use it here. As
no flash, though.
Through.
Oh, good polymorph there onto Gilius. Limit now, though. Not in the best of positions. Going to pop the Wild Growth, but he will go pop as well. And Limit sacrificed himself really there. Jezu able to survive. Let's just not do graphics.
Yeah, I was going to say, I have a feeling we shouldn't do them game shows. You know, they're never really that fun in to begin with. Like,
it's true.
Let's just rather have a look at the game. And then Jezu able to pick up a red buff for himself here. Once again, BDS, it's looking like a clean escape from them, but even when Limit comes in to save xMatty, well then Lulu, she's just in a bad position. Flash wasn't up for Limit just yet, and still just gets caught against all the CC that we're seeing from the SK composition. And once again, it's something that becomes very difficult to play against if they do snowball this Jinx. At some point, you will have to fight around objectives. You will have to front to back. And you will have to defend this backline. Is the Lulu going to be enough to save Matty from a Hecarim diving in, from Sertuss diving in with a package, from Treatz as well?
And the question also is for SK, if we kill xMatty, is that enough?
That is a good
Because
question.
there's a Gwen, a LeBlanc, and a Tryndamere on the other side. And even if Lulu is able to survive, Whimsy gives not only a polymorph, but also gives you attack speed as you try and fight the enemy team. And that works very well on a Gwen and on a Tryndamere. Wild Growth is a huge health bonus for you as well. So we'll see if SK can find enough damage to take down 3 members of BDS.
The thing that can become difficult for BDS is the fact that they don't have a main engage tool in their composition.
Yeah.
So even if they get ahead and they want to snowball their things, as I already talked about, they haven't looked the greatest when their win conditions becomes a side lane, despite Adam quite often being thought of as a good side laner. So it's going to be interesting to see how they're going to be dealing with these objective setup when Sertuss finally starts getting a lot of his AP items through, because he is going to be going Corki. And he is going to be doing a lot of damage to you if you wait around too long around these objectives. And if you can't turn immediately, and if you get kited around, yes, you have the ability to be immune. Yes, you have the Undying Rage. But at some point in the game, you have to think with the ability and the peeling of the likes of SK and the fact you have to run into a package, it may become a little bit more difficult.
For the moment, BDS happy enough in this state of affairs. Third dragon of the game, a Cloud. For them will be Cloud Soul. You can see Adam trying to group up with the team, gain control of this bottom side river. SK a little bit late on the reset for Jezu, means that he might be a bit late to this party. Going to enter this bot side jungle with about 20 seconds remaining. Midwave pulled by Gilius. Adam forced low, forced out. Didn't have to pop the ult or any summoners there though, so a few auto attacks heal him up a bit. Treatz going in for the engage. Super Mega Death Rocket, Jenax chasing in as well. NUCLEARINT forced away. xMatty doing quite a lot of work on Sword of the Shadow. Still an opportunity here. xMatty chunked out with a rocket. All this time, Cinkrof not with his team. He is pushing in that bottom lane. Control of the river. Now SK will try and step in, but there's 4 control wards. They've cleaned out 1. There's still 3 to go here for SK, and there's these wards behind them as well that they haven't spotted.
They don't even have the ultimates ready either. It's only Gilius sitting with it. I mean, yes, Jenax has this as well, but the fact that you don't have that Solar Flare is a big engage tool that suddenly disappeared. Gilius, though, he is standing on a pink ward. He is not spotted by anything just yet. But Jezu, he's recalled right now.
Jezu's not here at all. That is a lot of your damage in these fights. Third dragon of the game looks like it could just be secured here from BDS. Cinkrof snipping it down. Gilius does have the Onslaught of Shadows, but will not go in for it. BDS now on sole point at the 21-minute mark. Look at the clock in the left-hand corner. 5 minutes. It is ticking down moment by moment, second by second. SK know that they have to find a way to fight at least in 5 minutes' time.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there is still the option to give it up. I don't think it's going to lose you the game 100%, but it's definitely very much a nuisance to play against a team with a Cloud Soul at this stage in the game, especially because we already talked about the range. If you get that extra movement speed to play around with it, can be good. Adam, now down in this bottom side bush.
Fields, but double ghost coming out. Adam has a level advantage. Smoke screen, trying to catch him out. Flash away from Jenax. Adam didn't want to flash to chase.
And that's, once again, why the Tryndamere gets picked into the Graves. Usually Graves becomes quite annoying to deal with on a side lane, and while Jenax does not have his shield bow, he really doesn't have that extra defensive on the line. So Adam, once again, can very much run him down in a long side lane where there's no turrets.
Adam in a strong position, as you say, 240 CS at the 22-minute mark. SK trying to gain control of this top side, but it's even though the game is even, all you have to do is look at the Drakes, look at the scaling opportunities from BDS, and you can see how things could quite quickly swing in their favor. On the other side, though, SK, 2 items complete on Sertuss, Ludens, 2 items complete on Jenax as well, with that Immortal Shield bow finished.
And there, let's talk a little bit about the pressure on MXT as well, because yesterday he was in a prime position to carry on the Jinx, but he was really having a difficult time dealing with all the CC being layered on him. His positioning is going to be pivotal as well, because he needs to make sure that he's just not going to go down.
Cinkrof just pushes too far forward, but once again able to get out alive. Adam not in this fight yet. Sertuss getting forced away by xMatty down to 200 HP. And SK once again looked like they had a little bit of an engage onto Cinkrof, but he's able to skip and slide his way out of it. Gilius, no ultimate available, so BDS will be able to walk away from this one.
Great aggression from the side of BDS, and that's the thing, when the fights are not extended, when they're not getting poked down in an all-on-all brawl, while you have the Gwen as a frontline and later the Tryndamere, you can't deal with it from SK sides if you get run down. You need to have that package, you need to have the disengage tool if they dive too far forward, and you need to have the items on Sertuss, because up until that point where he doesn't, you really just win the run them down game.
And you can see BDS just taking their time around this one. They know if they can set up vision down towards this bottom side, they can deny SK from pushing onto Adam. Gives him a little bit more safety in that side lane. SK grouped up, and that's half of Jezu's health. He has to pop the heal. NUCLEARINT very happy to trade his HP for the enemy AD carries. Will dash away. That's a summoner out as well. SK, you got a few decisions to make here. I assume Sertuss is going to try and delay that package for the next Dragon fight, but even if you win that one, you then have to win the next one and the next one, because otherwise BDS will secure that soul. As you say, Cloud Soul, seen as one of the less impactful Dragon Souls, but it is still an influx of stats. It is still, I think it's around 600 to 700 gold worth of stats per player. And when you have something like a Tryndamere, you pop your ultimate and you get that move speed, it is so difficult to get away from.
The thing is with Tryndamere though, it's not like your engage tool to pop the ultimate. You want to use it at the last instant.
I've been using it wrong all along.
I mean, that's the perks way, isn't it? Well, I guess that's just not using it at all, but I'm going to say with SK that this is a team that has mastered stalling games for a very long time, because remember, for the longest time, SK just don't find early game leads. They find wins in the late game where they catch the opponent off guard. Maybe like now.
Onslaught of Shadows onto Cinkrof, doesn't have the ghost, doesn't really have anywhere to go, and the chase is on, and Cinkrof will fall. Caught out once again, it's the third time. The first two he was able to escape, but it's third time lucky for SK. Now what did they use? Solar Flare, Jezu, Flash, the chase, NUCLEARINT able to take him out and escape. The flash to chase, to land the chains, NUCLEARINT does it all for BDS.
Okay, that was great mechanics from NUCLEARINT, even forcing the flash down. Jezu didn't have it just quite yet, and he just gets taken down. He's able to distort back and doesn't even trade for it. Brilliant. Could have been good setup for the side of SK, either around the Baron or just moving that vision down towards the Drake to finally try and stop BDS from setting it up. But let's have a look at it again, because once again, SK, they are very good at finding picks in the late game. It's kind of become their bread and butter in terms of staying alive in these long games, but then NUCLEARINT sees the moment. Jezu's only on vision because he's clearing this ward, and because of this, finds the chains, finds the Q, flashes forward, and just able to get out of there with the distortion.
Good little escape from NUCLEARINT, and shows the burst potential that LeBlanc does have. Void Staff, Ludens doing quite a lot of work for him. Now we see 9 seconds on the clock. Corki, is that a package TP? It's got to be for SK. Solar Flare backup, package available. Dragon going to be started.
As well here.
Here we go, into darkness, into no vision for SK. BDS trying to burst it down. Manny gets the Libram.
Oh my God.
Long range Moonlight Vigil, just look at the damage. And can you go in? Can you get in there at all? Super Mega Death Hook, it not enough to secure it. It was xMatty who took it. SK unable to find their engage.
Honestly, great gun utilization from the side of Matty. Soul, man, single-handedly forcing SK away. We talked about the range, but if you can get the Calibrum with the Chakrams down like that on multiple members and just stack up your Chakrams, that's great from Matty. And you know, really an AD carry that has been under some criticism ever he moved in, just because he had that sick run with KC where they got back-to-back European Masters Championship. Worst paired up with Tarkamas, who's found a lot of success on G2, but Matty, he's not been able to find the same just yet. And looking to gain some footing in this game at least, where he's showing some signs of life.
So just chunked out just a little bit. Baron setup happening for SK on the wrong side of a Cloud Soul, but they can still take the fights if they can find that burst. It was always a little bit tricky to burst into a Lulu. That Wild Growth and the heal alongside it. Moonstone finished as well. Makes it very hard to actually burst anyone down from BDS unless you can isolate them from the rest of their team.
They are still trying to take care of this last auto turret in the mid lane. It is difficult for BDS to find the win condition if they're not able to just push in the mid lane and then start threading the side lanes, because every time Adam starts the split push, well, it's easier from the side of SK to move down and try and stop him, because they can allow themselves to be out so far on the map with that last mid lane turret still standing.
You can see Jenax going to go and answer that wave on the bottom side, gives BDS a small window of a one-man advantage on this mid lane play, and they continue to try and use that advantage to push in this tower. Looks like Sertuss and Jezu were a little bit late on this, clearing out the Razor Beaks, but they will be able to get back here and keep that tower above half health.
But now, it also comes down to BDS. Have you fixed your mistakes you made yesterday? Because remember, they were in the exact same position against Vitality. I'd say maybe even more comfortable position now, not too sure, but the fact still remains that they got a soul yesterday, Mountain Soul yesterday, Cloud Soul today, and they were put in a position where they needed to somehow take down the Baron to try and translate a gold lead. What Adam would quite often do is that he would just only push in a lane and then he'd leave immediately. But what he essentially needs to do in Tryndamere is that he needs to take care of these two Treatz. He needs to be a threat that calls to SK that they need to allocate resources to where Adam is, so the rest of his team can then gain more momentum, more control at the other side of the map.
Right now is NUCLEARINT going down towards that bottom lane. He has the teleport. He can join a fight if it does begin. Limit and Cinkrof trying to team up to get some vision into the SK jungle. So looking at the standings, you have to think a BDS win here would actually be good for the teams above them, because it means that BDS actually keep SK from fighting for that bottom playoff spot. Mad Lions, Vitality, XL will all be very happy if BDS end up winning this one and deny another win from SK, because BDS kind of have to win every game left available to them if they're going to make it into playoffs. It would be a good start for them today, but if you are a team above them, you kind of want them to win this one anyway, and at the moment they're in a good position to do so. NUCLEARINT now on his way towards that tier 2. Has pushed the wave, will probably take these Krugs and then back away, maybe even back away before even starting the Krugs.
But once again, it's just a lane being escorted into the tower, and then nothing more comes out of it. And now you can see, okay, we have one man down on the bot side, but it's still just one man, one man, one man. And for the longest time, I think for the past 3, maybe 4 minutes at this point, we're still looking at the same map state from the side of BDS. They're not translating their leads elsewhere, they're just keeping it at the same point. And that has been the issue quite often for them. Now again, they're starting to group up. Side lanes, no one's out in them, despite Adam being level 17 on the Tryndamere. He's clearing the rules right now. NUCLEARINT does have that teleport, and SK, they're kind of just holding back. They're waiting to scale themselves. They need more items on the Corki, great. They'll be happy about that. More items on the Jinx, great. I have the rapid fire cannon, and if I can get that crit by my IE as a 4th item and stop the fight from happening before it even begins, well, that's also great from the side of SK. So they don't mind at this point taking it slow while BDS remains so indecisive.
Looks like Adam is going for a Sertuss, not Sertuss, Lord Dominik's Regards here. 3rd item on the Tryndamere. I mentioned Sertuss because I think I would have quite liked to see it here. I'm not sure you need the armor penetration that you get as a Tryndamere from that Lord Dominik's. I think the slow would help you out quite a lot at sticking on the Corki, it's sticking on the Jinx with that Sertuss grudge. But for the moment, the Lord Doms does work into the True Grit passive from the Graves, the extra armor he gets, and of course plated steel caps picked up on that Graves as well. So if you are in the pure 1v1, it does help you a little bit there.
Here's the thing though, Baron has been alive almost for 5 minutes without being threaded by BDS once. Soon, the Elder Drake will spawn on the map, and at some point, one of these teams will have to go for something. We can't just remain at this stalemate. At least you'd hope so, because it's still the same game plan. Let's see if we can take down this mid lane turret. And finally with the resets coming through from SK, maybe they should be able to do it on this push. You can see they're pressing hard, and yes, they've done it, Medic. It's been 5 minutes, but they've finally taken down the turret after regaining the soul for themselves.
Elder up in 30 seconds though. It feels like we've been talking a lot about the Baron, but Elder a possibility. Gilius chunked out before it's going to be started. xMatty trying to get through those guns. Calibrum, Infernum, the green and the blue, an okay start here Looks like he's going to try and cycle that Caliber. I'm wondering what he has next. Crescendum would be a very good pick alongside that Infernum. Do a lot of damage if it comes to a grouped up team fight. Adam now grouping with BDS. SK trying to step into a little bit of a lack of vision, but that ward in the pixel bush will help them out. Package available for Sertuss.
They know exactly where they are right now. Now Blue's ball comes through.
Oh, Moonlight Vigil was just short. The solar flare's going to land. A NUCLEARINT is shut down. Sertuss dives onto the backline. Maddie falls as well. Adam tries to get onto Jezu, but the stopwatch will save him for now. Treatz there as well. Cinkrof stunned. Adam able to get over across the wall, and he will be able to chase down one, but it's 3 for 1 in favor of SK right now. Adam dives across, just escapes. He has that ultimate, Cinkrof does not, and the chase is on for SK. Adam able to get away with that dash, but Cinkrof has no such luxury. 4 for 1 for SK, and they turn their eyes to the Elder.
It's a little bit frustrating at this point, because you have a Tryndamere, you have a Gwen, and you have a LeBlanc on side lane with TP, and you opt in for the team fight win condition around the Elder while having 5 minutes before this spawn with your soul. SK, they do what they do best. They stole the game once again. They're not even losing anything. They remain with the gold even, and they just find a better team fight with the package. Like BDS, they opt in for the play initially, but they're so split. Limited Adam is not even in a position to peel for Matty right now, so the Lulu is not together with Aphelios. That's already catastrophe at that point. And now with the Elder Drake, SK should be able to reset, and they could just start threatening the Baron instead and put themselves in a prime position for winning. Once again, BDS with their early game, with their Drake stacking, they're good at it. They're genuinely good at finding that soul, but they never translate it to more.
And you have to give credit to SK for taking the fight as well, because they all dodged.
Yes.
They dodged the Moonlight Vigil, which was Graviton, would have rooted them all in place, would have allowed Gwen to get that needlework off, would have allowed Adam just to crit boom them in that fight. Alongside that, Treatz found a perfect engage onto NUCLEARINT and locked him up before he could do anything. And now SK, 2,000 gold ahead, but that's not what they're really looking at right now. The Elder Drake in their back pocket, still half of its cooldown, and Adam, oh my goodness, that was close. Like, Sertuss just needed one more rocket. Of course, Adam does have the ultimate and could have used it if he went below that threshold. NUCLEARINT now looking for Sertuss. You lose these, NUCLEARINT! You lose those, and he lives up to his name. NUCLEARINTed in the bottom lane, trying to kill off Sertuss. Now SK turn their eyes towards the Baron.
And just like that, they're able to pick it up. They have the Elder Drake. They have a Corki, as we said. SK, they don't mind scaling. Actually, they quite love it. And now they're put in a position where they can start sieging with this Corki. You don't have an engage on BDS, which means essentially you're kind of forced to just run into them, which essentially SK Gaming loves. So it's not a good position for BDS all of a sudden. And SK, once again, they've held on well. This is their bread and butter. They stall out games every time, wait for that scaling aspect of their composition, and then they just take over the control of the game against teams who struggle to close out games.
And although Elder's about to time out in about 30 seconds, they have the Baron now as well to push in these inhibitor towers. No real waves in the side lanes for them to do anything, but they might be looking for the win. 20 seconds still on this Elder. SK could just try and force the tempo, could just try and force a play. Solar Flare available. Limit forced away, NUCLEARINT stepping forward, but this should be the second Nexus tower, first Nexus tower falling. SK take it. Adam now joins the fray, has the GA. Cinkrof forced away, there's the root. NUCLEARINT dives in. Jenax away with collateral damage. Elder Drake, 4 seconds left on it. 3, 2, 1, as the Nexus tower will go down. Now the Nexus, the target, Adam going in. Will the GA be enough to save him? He gets onto Sertuss, dashing forward, gets the slow, but he gets put into the GA. Jenax fighting on the backline by himself. This is good from BDS. They've held on to this game. Treatz going in. The root's going to stop NUCLEARINT with his TP. Jezu does fall. Sertuss and Gilius get away alive.
And just like that, naked Nexus. Sertuss, he does have that
Sertuss
teleport.
has TP.
Is there any wards anywhere? NUCLEARINT, he's looking for him, but there's no one around the base at the moment.
Did he see the Valkyrie? He saw the Valkyrie.
He can get them with one bull. Oh, waits on the bomb.
Oh, it's a play. NUCLEARINT dashing forward. Doesn't have the second dash right now. Use the chains in between. Has to wait for that dash to come back up, but Sertuss can turn this. He's trying to get away. Flash forward from NUCLEARINT, not enough. The more comes in. NUCLEARINT chunked away with a Gatling gun.
Adam's coming up as well. NUCLEARINT not fancying this one. Baron power recall. Can he get away?
He's backing. He gets away.
He's just out.
He escapes. BDS didn't want to take it any further. He escapes. That's another Baron buff alive for the next minute or so. BDS's Nexus is bare. No Nexus towers to defend it, but they have held on to this game for now. However, you have to feel SK in a very strong position to look to close it out.
Count the flashes though. This is Sertuss now with no flash. One of your main damage dealers on SK. If you can take him down with Adam, you might be able to find a way to win out the fight. Jezu, still a threat as well, of course. And that is the problem for SK, but at first, just focus on taking one down. You can worry about the other one afterwards. And Adam, he is in a position right now where he's trying to catch off guard. This Corki, he's going to be spotted on vision now.
Okay, so that's what you got. What you got to get away from this one. Adam has the Undying Rage. Sertuss does not have that same luxury. Shut down for Adam. That's what a Tryndamere can do at this position of the game. Super Mega Death Rocket.
Nah, it's not
gonna go wide.
And just like that, they slow down the tempo again. That's 50 seconds on Sertuss. 1 minute and 30 seconds before the Elder Drake spawns. Once again, this can be a win condition from BDS. Yes, they struggled closing out the game, but surely if they're able to pick up the Elder Drake for themselves, they can put themselves in a winning position. Man, might even do that now with still 30 seconds on Sertuss, trying to gain as much map control as they can, pushing in with a lot of members on the super minions to keep SK in their base, to keep control of the red side jungle, and in turn, get control around the Drake pit.
There is always the risk of no teleports on BDS, of no Baron for them to get enhanced recalls, and of a Hecarim and a Corki getting into your base somehow. If you take too long around the Elder, we may see the most infamous trade deal in history. Elder for Nexus, we've seen it before.
Look at Gilius. He's got a pink ward in his inventory as well. And Sertuss, he's up in 1 second. They could try and look through the top side.
He put the pink ward just up above where Baron is right now. So maybe with a package, Corki can get from there to the Nexus lickety split.
Unless it gets cleared by Adam. He is making his way up there, and he will spot it.
Smart move there by Adam to clear that one out. SK now trying to advance through their own jungle, clear out vision, but they are met by Cinkrof and NUCLEARINT. NUCLEARINT, though, those are the first chains. Chases on. Gilius didn't even have the Ghost there. Just speeding his way towards the fight with the Turbo Chem Tank. Ghost still available. All ults up. Flashes. Not on Sertuss. Cinkrof tries to get in. Solar Flare flashed away from. Super Mega Death Rocket coming in as well. What do we got? That's 2 ults down. xMatty popped the Moonlight Vigil as well. Cinkrof still dodging around the fight as best he can. The damage from Sertuss is absurd right now. Adam looking for a flank. Gilius looking for the win. They're chasing in onto the shadows. Cinkrof is all on his lonesome. He's all left alone. The stopwatch can buy you some time, but the only gold you're seeing is silver right now. xMatty gets back. Sertuss has the package. Can you defend BDS? And Maddie takes one. Gilius falls. Jenax into the GA. Sertuss got to use this package perfectly instead. The Nexus the target. BDS battered and bruised at an end to their name because they may lose this game. Jenax on the Nexus. SK trying to do what they can. Sertuss needs one more auto and he will find it. SK claim the win.
Oh, it's not clean, but they get the job done. And once again, SK, they're able to stall out the game. They find their footing in the late game and they close it out themselves. And you can look at them, they're quite happy about this one. They know how much it means in their run for playoffs.
And as soon as those Nexus towers fell, it was almost like the writing was on the wall. You could see it in the stars. SK, with the movement speed, with their ability to get onto that Nexus, they were able to take the win. Your key player of the game votes at LEC on Twitter. Jenax, Gilius, and Sertuss. And yeah, all of them had a really good game.
All valid, but once again, Sertuss on this Corki, when he gets on champions that gets to be the carry, like the Akali we saw earlier against Mad Lions, but also like the Corki we also saw in their victory against Mad Lions. It's these champions where he finally gets to have a bit more impact than just sitting back and waiting for a shockwave or creating space with a Victor Laser. I love when we see Sertuss with this scaling aspect in the game, because sometimes laning phase doesn't go in his favor, but when he finally gets on these champions that can take control in the mid to late game, it goes great.
Definitely can have an impact. SK extend their win streak to 3 victories in a row, and after the break, Ashley will be joined by Miracle Run maker Gilius. The Prince in the Bed.
Systems are overloading. We can't risk another game.
We need to take a break and regroup.
We're starting to lose our mind. Captain, we cannot go back to Elo Helm. Last time it took us months to get out of it.
Initiate break protocol.
Hurry up!
Yes! Yes! I did it! We did it! We did it!
Even the biggest champ needs a break.